Hey, it's GW coming to you live once again, and I want to apologize because, first of all, I've been caught up playing Resident Evil 2 for the PS4, which is really awesome, the remake. If you haven't checked it, check it out. Very cool, very cool game. Also, it's been really bitter cold, and I really just didn't have enough motivation to come down here and cut some promos. But I'm back, and I got to tell you about a little obscure movie called The Happy Time Murders. Stars Melissa McCarthy, and the first thing you're going to notice is there's Muppets, and this is a Brian Henson film. Brian Henson is the son of famous puppeteer Jim Henson. The first thing you're going to notice is the tagline: "No Sesame, all street." This is a really raunchy sort of comedy, and when I looked it up on the internet, it got the worst reviews of any movie released in 2018. I just got done watching this, and there was a lot of parts where I almost fell over. And I don't know what it is, guys, but I love seeing Muppets cuss. I love seeing Muppets do things that normally, when you turn on a children's show, you don't see. And it's interesting that I just said about Muppets cussing because just recently, a couple months ago, the puppeteer who was controlling Grover for Sesame Street let an F word slip. You could look that footage up on YouTube. It is pretty funny. But regardless, I love this raunchy comedy, and it's not something that mainstream America would like, but the people that are, into this type of thing are going to enjoy. Basically, the premise is that there is a group of Muppets that have a TV show called the Happy Time Gang, and they are murdered one by one in very comedic ways, and everything is played in this movie for tongue-in-cheek. So really, there's not going to be any blood gore. There's just profanity and a lot of puppet sexual innuendo. The thing that I liked about this film was that it created a world where humans and puppets existed. It also portrayed that, puppets can do anything. And the Henson Company, if you watch the making of it, has come a long way with their puppeteering. This was actually an offshoot of a Brian Henson show. And cussing puppets are not new. They've been around. You can see them in shows in Las Vegas and things like that. This just kicked it up and tried to bring it to mainstream America. I understand why this film didn't really get too many, praisals, because it missed out on an audience. Audience looked at it and said, "Nah, we'll pass." And just two things that don't work. However, like I said, I found it to be very, very funny, very raunchy, very funny, and everything was played for tongue-in-cheek. So, I would suggest that if you are looking for something obscure and quirky, and those of us who are film buffs are always on the lookout for something different, trying to break the mold, this film isn't going to win any awards. If anything, it probably would win for Best Worst Picture of 2018. I digress. I think it was probably pretty funny, just not given the advertisement that it deserved. And I also think that, Melissa McCarthy, with her weight shift, has turned a lot of people off on her. But she is fantastic in this movie. She plays everything with a comic sense, and I really enjoy her. And I think the movie is well worth a watch. Now, before I, conclude this interview, if you do rent this and do like it or think it's okay, there is another film that you ought to check out, and I'm going to get to that in just 1 second. This is the film in question, Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles. And the first thing you're going to say is, Peter Jackson? Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson? Yes, that Peter Jackson, before he was famous, made this film, Meet the Feebles. This is a very interesting film if you haven't seen it. It is one of the first films to have puppets do crazy things on the screen, like have sex, get high, smoke dope. Basically, and then gun down an entire room with a machine gun, and a hippo does that. This is a cult classic, meaning, again, this film missed mainstream America. Now, there's the back of the DVD, as you guys could see. Sorry, I got to get it in focus here. Basically, there is a Broadway cast going on, and the biggest star is Heidi the Hippo. Well, the director of the Broadway play that they're going to put on is having an affair. Heidi Hippo doesn't like it, and the climax of this film will be talked about for years. It is described as the Feebles Variety Massacre, and it rocked the puppet world. But you will see all kinds of crazy things in this film. You will see a junky knife-throwing frog, which is pretty cool. A hare or a rabbit with a fatal disease as an MC. And it's just crazy. It's off the wall raunchiness, but it's cute. I mean, I don't know what to say. So if you like the Happy Time Murders and you want to compare, I'm sorry, can't even talk this morning, a comparison piece, check out Meet the Feebles, and you will not be disappointed. This film pushes it does. It pushes limits, guys. I'm not going to lie. And it is shocking the first time you see it, because the first thing you're going is like, when you walk in and if you see any parts of these movies, you're like, oh, it's a kid's movie, it's puppets. And then you watch it for a while, you're like, whoa, baby. You know? So, don't believe anything critics say. If you like the Happy Time Murders, which I did, I thought it was a raunchy little good time. But there are, points in the story that sort of miss. But you're going to have that, because no film's perfect. Well, I take that back. The Godfather's a perfect film. Also, another gangster film that you might want to check out that I consider perfect is Once Upon a Time in America, but get the director's cut. Anyway, Meet the Feebles, Happy Time Murders, and it'll appeal to your sense of humor if your humor is in the gutter. And like I said, I really enjoy these films. And I would like to also say, Peter Jackson did a heck of a good job on this, and it's not a stupid movie. It's structured pretty good. Again, the problem is people look at puppets and Muppets and they just push them to the side. I don't know. But anyway, those are my video picks for this week. They're not award winners by any means, but I think critics were a little too harsh on the Happy Time Murders. They gave it like a point, half a star. Well, you know what? You go into a movie like that, you don't expect it to garner Grammy nominations, win Academy Awards. Do you know what I mean? Or, I'm sorry, Grammys. I meant Oscars. You don't expect that. And I think critics look at these films sometimes, and because they're not Oscar caliber, they dismiss them and sort of rip them down. They don't go into a movie, looking for stupidity. If you go into a dumb movie like the Happy Time Murders or Meet the Feebles with a low expectation, you're not going to be disappointed. However, if you go into these films and you say, this writing is going to be like the Titanic dialogue, it's going to be back and forth. No, it's not. And I think that's where people miss the boat. Also, it appeals to the teenager in you. And like I said, Muppets cussing and doing anything, out of sorts is, to me, very funny. So you can check those out. And that's GW. I'll see you at the Puppet Show. And by the way, I want to still give a big shout out to everybody that's following me. And like I said, if I get you to watch a movie, even if you don't like it, at least I've got you to check it out. And that's all I'm asking. It's GW. And as always, we're going to do the proverbial fade to black.